Hegel theory of state, or the theory of state given by Hegel. Today we are going to focus our discussion on the origin of theory of state by Hegel. That is how Hegel believed, or what Hegel believed about the origin of state. That's how, according to Hegel, how state came into being. Uh, According to Hegel, or the origin of state is Devon. He says that state is not creation of history nor the creation of civil war, but it is the product of divine will. The Hegelian concept of state is deeply influenced by religious text. He is saying that state is unfolding of mind, and it is the product of divine purpose. It is not created by civil war, or it is not created by history. Rather, it is created by a divine will, or we can say that it is the God who has created state, not the people. So he's saying that state is unfolding of mind, and state has mysterious majesty, and individual is implicitly universal, and that is the universality which is the essence of state. He believed that state is actual, absolute, universal, and thus it is the individual actualization, and it is the objectified of the individual. So he believed that state is created by divine will, and it is created for a divine purpose, and it's not created by history or a civil war. He also believed that state is the product of nature as well. It's not only the divine creation, but it is the product of nature as well. Although it's the divine creature, but it is the nature or product of nature, since he believed that all organic processes are dialectical. So state is also a dialectical process, which is the product of nature. And according to him, the natural state is the natural result of evolution, because it is the embodiment of reason. Certain other political philosophers and political thinkers also believe so. For example, G.P. Ghosh also believe, and he says that the state is the highest embodiment of the reason, and the state is the guardian of liberty. And same lines, Professor Stas also believe the same ideology. He is saying that state is the higher creation, since it came into being by reconciliation of family, which was the thesis, and the society, that was the antithesis. And when family and society, that is the thesis and antithesis, come together through their mutual cooperation, a higher product is created, that is synthesis, or the state. And he's saying that in the same way, if we have merely assumed, without any attempt at explanation, that social ethics which find its embodiment in state is synthesis, and law, which is the objective separate, is the thesis, and morality, which is the subjective, is the antithesis. So he is saying that first appear as obedience to an external law, which is purely objective, and next as obedience to inner law of conscience, which is purely subjective, and finally as conformity to the law of state, which constitute the unity of objective, that is the inner law, and subjective, that is the external law. So he also believes so, and he's saying that it will be better if Hegel could say that a man realizes his highest good or freedom through conformity to social ethics, of which state is the custodian. So he also believed that the state came into being by reconciliation of the family and the society. And he's adding something, rather, when he says that the man has to follow some external law first, that is that is the objective, and on the next stage he has some inner as conscious as well, which is the subjective matter. And when these objective and subjective things reconcile through their mutual or their mixing, a higher thing is created, that is the law of state, which is the custodian of the freedom. And since law of the state is the custodian of freedom, and the state is the custodian of the law of state, so we can say that the state is the custodian of the freedom. And Hegel rejected the theory of contract. Since you know, guys, that according to the contract theory, the people get some mutual agreement, the consent, and they render their freedom to a superior authority, that is the sovereignty. But he's saying that since in primitive time, the people were not free to make consent. Since the people were not free to make consent, how they consent to a sovereign? They were not free to do so. So saying that the theory, saying that the state is the creation of some sort of social contract is wrong. So Hegel don't believe on the social contract theory, and he completely rejects the social contract theory of the creation of state, because he is saying that the man was not free in the primitive society. Might is right was the system at that time. Since he had no freedom to render his freedom, how he could render his freedom? And he rationalizes the history. He says history is neither shaped nor guided by great men. Rather, history came into being with the passage of time, little understanding and massive cooperation with their own will. So history is not created by great men. Rather, he says that history is opposed to the ideal consent and the contract theory. Man is social animal, he believes so, but he's saying that man is social animal because of divine spark within himself, and that divine spark can't be realized in isolation. So that's why man cannot live in isolation. So he came in contact with the other fellow man, and throughout the history he believed that the man never remained isolated. He had contact with his fellow man, since he could not realize the divine spark that's present inside him in isolation. So man never lived in isolation life, so never lived an isolated life. Rather, he is always in contact with some other people, and because of this, the state is created. He is saying that state is the march of God on the earth. Since state is the creation by divine power, divine will, and for a divine purpose, since it is the superior authority, and he believes on the absolutism and totalitarian concept of state. And he is saying that state is the creation of God, it's created by the march of God on the earth, saying that since the family that was created by God could not fulfill his own could not fulfill his requirements, so that family came in contact to the society. So family is the thesis and the society is the antithesis. Since family could not fulfill its requirements, so it came in contact with an antithesis, that is the society. And after the merger of family and society, a superior thing is created, a superior stage is created, that is the state. So about the creation of state, Hegel believed on a dialectical process, a natural process, and a divine process, that is the family, society, and when family and society merge, a state is created through a dialectical process, a divine process, and the state itself is a divine thing. It's a superior, it's an absolute authority, it's an absolute thing. Thank you for joining. Take care. Goodbye.